Special thanks to sponsor Ironside Computers, specifically for giving me a computer, which I will be using at the exact moment this video finishes rendering to celebrate and play literally anything other than Metroid. Good morning everybody and welcome back to VG Myths, the online internet video game TV show. Insert vague comparison between exploring alien planets and being bad at video games. Metroid is the first game in Nintendo's flagship Metroidvania franchise and origin of half the genre title. But unlike most games in the genre, it sucks, I hate it, and I want to hate it even more. Can you beat the Metroid Minimalist Pacifist Challenge? We'll be playing the Famicom Disk System version of Metroid via Nintendo Switch Online, both for the convenience of save files and the extra sound channel. If you'd like to do the run on the NES version, most strategies you'll be seeing here are still applicable. Our goal is to beat the game while killing as few enemies as possible and collecting as few upgrades as possible, with pacifism taking priority. If at any point we accidentally kill an unnecessary enemy, we must reload our most recent save. Before even starting the run, we'll need at least a basic idea of what's necessary to reach the end. This is a map of the entirety of Zebes. The door to the final hallway, in which we beat the game, will only appear after the death of Mother Brain in Tourian. Mother Brain can only be damaged by missiles, requiring exactly 32. But to actually reach Mother Brain, we need 1 missile to destroy her glass jar, 8 missiles each for the 5 Zebetite doors, and 25 missiles for the red and orange doors leading through and into Tourian. Adding these together, we get a minimum of 98 missiles necessary to enter and exit Tourian. The player starts with exactly 0 missiles, so we'll have to find all 98 of them somewhere on Zebes. There are 3 ways to obtain missiles. The first is to murder random enemies for missile pickups. These will only replenish missiles up to your maximum, and since murder is required, we're probably never gonna see one. The second method is killing Ridley or Kraid, each granting the player with 75 missiles added to both their current missile count and maximum missile count. It's worth noting that it's required to murder Ridley and Kraid to beat the game anyway, but Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System was programmed on duct tape, so no it isn't. The third method is to grab a missile upgrade, each granting the player with +5 missiles to their current count and maximum count, and very importantly, not adding anything to their murder count. Of course, these do add to our item collection count, but being the only non-murder missile source, we'll be exhausting these upgrades as much as we need to. Speaking of how much we need to, since we need 98 missiles to complete Tourian, we'll need to collect at least 20 missile packs. Guess how many missile packs are in the game? 21. While this is technically enough on paper, logistically this should still be impossible with missile packs alone, since many of those missile packs are themselves located behind doors that require missiles to enter. But I think for now we have at least a basic idea of what we should focus on as our long-term goal. Go grab every single missile. Let's get this run started. We immediately grab the morph ball to get out of the tutorial area, then make our way over to the first available missile sitting in the middle of a nearby hallway. Now that we have 5 missiles, we turn around and head back up. Our next goal is the morph bombs. You might be tempted to grab the E-tank along the way, but remember, since increasing our maximum health isn't technically required to beat the game, and this is a minimalist run, we're not allowed to grab a single E-tank. Unfortunately, since the only way to recover health is to murder, we're also stuck with exactly 30 HP, the amount Samus starts the game with and respawns with upon every death. But since we have infinite lives, that's not going to be as much of an issue as it sounds. Just die a couple dozen painful and horrible deaths until eventually you've memorized every single enemy pattern and can blaze through safely. Now that we've reached the morph bombs, you might notice a problem. They're behind a missile door. But trust me, we absolutely need the morph bombs for reasons you'll be seeing in a few minutes, so this missile toll is well worth it. However, now that we've spent 5 missiles, there are now only 100 total missiles available in the game. If we want to avoid killing Ridley or Kraid, we'll need to obtain all 20 missile packs without opening any missile doors, which I must stress is impossible by design. But we'll worry about impossibility when we get there. For now, there's 1 more missile pack at the top of Brinstar that will require some hectic dodging. Be careful while bombing through any walls, lest any nearby enemies get caught in the blast. Once that pack is obtained, we're heading into Norfair both to grab some more missiles sitting in plain sight and to grab the final unique item for our playthrough, the Ice Beam. The main path to the Ice Beam is through a missile door, but luckily there just so happens to also be a secret passageway through the hallway behind it, accessible with the morph bombs. In order to reach that pathway, you're theoretically supposed to already have either the Ice Beam or high jump boots, but we have a backup for extra jump height. Morph and immediately plant a bomb. Since Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System was programmed on duct tape, after the bomb bobs you into the air, you're still legally considered grounded and capable of jumping. By moving slightly to the side of the bomb, you can even use this to give yourself some great horizontal distance. The rest of the pathway doesn't need any fancy tricks, but will still be extremely difficult. Samus dies in 3 hits in Norfair, and you'll have to dodge through 2 sets of highly dangerous marbles to reach the ice beam. On top of that, you're practically required to take damage once from the second set of marbles, since the spawn pattern has them going straight for you as soon as you enter the room. But once you get past that set, you can finally grab the ice beam. We won't explicitly need this thing until much later in the game, but we will absolutely be abusing it until then. When an enemy is hit with the ice beam, it temporarily freezes in place and can be used as a platform. But there's a secret secondary effect. Things that are frozen aren't capable of murdering you. Now that we've got this baby, there are no more unique items that are required to beat the game, and thus no more items that could possibly make any of these missile packs easier to grab. We're just gonna have to grab them all as is. Since we've already started Norfair, let's grab everything else while we're here. There's a dead end on the western path from the elevator with some missiles. To reach them, we have to go through 2 hallways full of the absolute most dangerous hazard in the game, lava bubbles. In Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System for the Nintendo Entertainment System, these projectiles are randomized on duct tape, effectively just making them decorations rather than hazards. But in Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System for the Famicom Disk System, the duct tape's randomization is far, far better in the worst possible way. Getting past every individual lava bubble will necessitate perfect timing and good RNG. For those just past a ledge, you're safe while morph balled directly next to them. Sit and wait for the exact moment they stop firing, then make a run for it. Once you're near the missile pack, you'll notice it's protected by the only enemies in the entire game who can't be frozen. Any attempt to do so will just murder them, and dodging them is also kind of out of the question. My personal strategy was just having enough health to not have to care. Once you've got the missile, you're probably going to instantaneously explode, which is functionally just a shortcut to the save menu. We can get a couple more missile packs in the lower right area of Norfair, but then we run into an issue. There are 3 missile packs located in this chunk of the map. As far as the game is designed, the only entrance to this chunk of the map is a secret crawl space within the high jump room, which is blocked by a missile door. Since opening this door isn't an option, we're instead gonna have to throw the duct tape in the trash and break reality. Notice the vertical room in the lava bubble area is directly above a vertical room in the chunk of map we want to enter. This means we can use the glitch everybody's been waiting for. If you open a door, stand in its place until it closes, then rapidly morph and unmorph, you'll gradually gain height and clip upwards into the wall. If you do this past the highest possible screen position, Samus will loop to the lowest possible screen position. I'll spare you the details, both because it's very technical and because I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but if you do this in a very specific way, you can get Samus to fall past the floor and into the lower room. There is, however, a bit of a caveat. The screen doesn't catch up with us, making the game basically unplayable. However, notice on the map there's a door right next to where we land. Even while off screen, we're still fully capable of opening and entering this door. Unfortunately, just going through the door isn't quite enough, because Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System was programmed on non-Euclidean duct tape. If you enter the door ASAP, Samus will arrive in the room normally entered through the upper door we originally dropped down from. This is because the room Samus enters is determined not by the door used, but by the current screen position. If the screen is positioned too high, it will assume she must have entered the upper door. In fact, if you make a pixel-perfect entrance, you'll even enter the non-existent door in between the 2 actual doors, leading to an inescapable junk room and soft-locking the game. The only way out of here is using the game's secret co-op feature. Just press up and A on controller 2 to helpfully murder player 1. I experimented a while to get the screen low enough and eventually discovered it's as simple as staying in the morph ball and planting bombs. Each time you're juggled, the screen will change position slightly. As for exactly when to enter the door, I used this bubble as a tell. When none of the lower pixels are visible, you'll enter the upper door. When exactly one of the lower pixels are visible, you'll enter the non-existent door. When at least 2 of the lower pixels are visible, you'll successfully enter the lower door, thus making the game playable and allowing us to grab the 3 missile packs. It'll still be a pretty long trek to get there, but none of the rooms are as difficult as the lava bubbles you already had to get past, so it shouldn't take too many attempts. With every Norfair missile pack collected, we head down into Ridley's hideout. There are some super cramped hallways in here, and enemies have been given another huge buff. We now die in 2 hits. Carefully but quickly inch your way forward, freezing every enemy before squeezing past them. These cramped hallways lead you to 2 missile packs. The third and final missile pack can be reached by going through this extremely dangerous bouncing marble room. Since Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System was programmed to hate you, it's literally random chance whether you'll automatically take damage on entrance. In the long hallway, carefully edge your way forward and freeze the marbles as they come close. If they're too low to roll under, don't worry. They're able to survive 1 bomb blast, and enemies are incapable of hurting you immediately after said blast, letting you slide right through each other. After exiting the hallway, we'll be at the bottom of a long vertical drop, the missile we're after being accessible from above. But as you might expect, we can make our way up using the door clip glitch. If you're on the upper portion of the screen and jump while on the wall, the screen will scroll upward slightly to follow you. This lets you very slowly make your way upward. Before actually grabbing the missiles, I recommend taking a small detour to get trolled by the developers. Be very careful to scream profanities while doing so for maximum efficiency. With Ridley's hideout cleared, we head into Kraid's hideout for the last 4 missile packs. 2 of them require some fancy tricks to get into this door. It's technically possible to get over there with some fancy bomb placements, but whether or not the player is allowed to place bombs in midair is basically RNG because Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System wasn't programmed. Instead, there's a much more consistent way. If you loop over the left side of the screen, you'll end up in an area below where you're able to freely walk around. Walk a little bit to the left and you'll loop to the right side of the screen. Then jump up and do some more morphing to rise back on screen. In the very similar looking room just after, we can do the door clip glitch with a much different result. Just mash morphs constantly over and over and you'll gradually scroll the screen down. When the hallway below is almost totally visible, jump up a few times to scroll the screen a couple pixels past where the upper doors are visible, then continue. This ensures that the enemy in the lower hallway won't be able to spawn, letting you proceed safely. We're now able to get both missile packs in this lower area. There's just 1 more missile pack to cover, the one behind this missile door right next to the elevator. There are no vertical hallways we could use to trick our way in there. The door is the only option, and opening the door is not an option. We'll just have to enter the door without opening it. Do the same clip trick seen earlier, and while invisibly bumbling around with no idea what you're doing, make sure you accidentally position yourself exactly in the middle between the door and its red blocks. Too far to the right and you'll automatically enter the first door you come across. Too far to the left and you won't be able to do the trick properly. If you're close to the sweet spot, you can open the first door and reposition yourself if you want to be more exact. Once in position, scroll the screen all the way up and stop exactly 1 block above the door we're trying to get past. Since we're halfway into the block on the right, we're legally allowed to walk to the right. It doesn't seem to work 100% of the time, but if the duct tape isn't paying attention, you'll phase into the next room, where very thankfully the missile is a couple short hops away. Of course, there's no way out of this room other than dying a painful death, which we have already thoroughly established as a valid strategy. With every single missile pack obtained and only 5 of those missiles spent, we now have exactly 100 missiles and just barely the minimum equipment to enter Tourian and beat the game. Tourian's entrance is where Ridley and Kraid's murder are normally required. After their deaths, you're able to fully extend a bridge over this pit of lava. This bridge room is where the ice beam is finally used for its main purpose. If you lure one of the bird-like enemies next to the door, then enter, it will follow you through. Jump around above to get it positioned just right, morph down into the lava, and make a very risky attempt to freeze the bird at exactly the right elevation. It needs to be as high as possible while just barely low enough for you to reach with your highest possible jump height. I say highest possible jump height because your jump height in lava is so inconsistent it's effectively random, because Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System was programmed while the devs were trying to escape a pool of duct tape. After accidentally jumping correctly, plant a few morph bombs and try to bounce yourself up to the door. The bird should have enough health to survive the blast, letting you continue to the elevator. Thankfully, no matter how low your own health is, Tourian's entrance acts as a respawn point, so just die a painful death for a free refill. Now that you're in Tourian, there are 2 main enemies to focus on. Metroids, similar to their namesake, are incredibly pathetic and not worth talking about. Donuts, meanwhile, kill you in 1 hit. You've probably also noticed they instantly hit you no matter what when entering the very first doorway, because Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System had several critical game design flaws. After all, the genre was in its infancy and the developers were testing the limits of new technology while experimenting with a lot of interesting ideas. such as programming on duct tape. To get through that doorway safely, you'll need to roll off the upper ledge and head through mid-bounce. This puts you at exactly the right positioning to just barely slide past and survive. The most dangerous part of this trek will be in the next vertical room, where donuts constantly respawn and have absolutely no qualms about literally spawning on top of you. Thankfully, while donuts die in one hit, they can still be frozen, which does not deal damage. Only 3 donuts are allowed on screen at a time, so freezing them temporarily prevents any more donuts from appearing. Keep careful track of every potential donut spawn point and weave past them while morphed to keep your hitbox as small as possible. Once you reach the final door, gather your thoughts and get ready for the hardest challenge in the entire game. You will immediately die because Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System deserves to burn like duct tape. It is theoretically possible to sometimes randomly go through the door without getting hit, but there's a much more reliable option. Slowly lure the 3 Metroids nearest the door as close as possible. Once they're next to the door, roll into a ball and enter. As long as these Metroids are on screen, they'll prevent the donuts from spawning, giving you just enough extra time to safely enter the room. Now that you're in here, you'll need to carefully manage the donuts and look for your opportunity to destroy the Zebetite doors. These regenerate if not shot fast enough, so you'll need enough time to fire 8 missiles in a row. Immediately after, you will probably die. Not to worry though, turns out Zebetite doors are remembered as open when you continue, same as the missile doors, so as long as you destroy the door with exactly 8 missiles, you've made permanent progress. Keep grinding through this hallway and be extremely careful when shooting the donuts. I haven't mentioned it until now, but there's a very dangerous glitch that makes the pacifist run incredibly infuriating. If the fire button is pressed, and then basically anything about Samus's movement changes, for example, you either start or stop moving, then Samus will immediately fire her gun again. Yeah, that's right, in Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System, movement is a glitch. Duct tape! Since donuts die in one hit, any instance of this glitch has the capability of instantaneously invalidating our attempt, since, as we all know, donuts are legally people. So yeah, basically, avoid moving while shooting as much as possible. And since there's no way to restock missiles, you'll also have to reload your save if you ever waste more than 2, which basically means if you ever die after starting to shoot Mother Brain. Real talk, on the day I was heading into Tourian, we had 1 donut left in the house, which I was saving as my reward for finishing the run. 16 hours of Metroid later, I had yet to eat a donut. With exactly one unforgivable murder under our belt, one donut legally edible, and I think like 20-something items, but I honestly don't care to add up the number, you do it, the Metroid Minimalist Pacifist run is mission complete. And I am never playing Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System ever again in my entire life. Before heading out, special shout out to Metroid speedrunner Terrifying Bridge, whose pacifist speedrun randomly showed up on Google and I frequently checked for reference. And finally, special thanks to all Patreon backers, including all the bugs Yuki has killed: Andrew Seibert, Anon42, RB Drox, All Zero, Leslam, Chris Nate, Alexander Botkin, Anu Akrira, David 20 Covers, Vincent Hall, Alex Nelson, Lively Leader, The Quacky Gamer, Luminescent Dragon, Jason Ilges, Vaith, Rory Kelly, Lane Robert Leishman, Liddy Kitty, Jace Harsh, Crustacean Creep, Queen Sapphire, Plum Sweater, Procrastinating Destiny, Epic Evan 921, Alex Likes to Eat, Yield Foreign, Rundum Goy, Misfunctional, Cam the Can 1, Nathaniel Kalita, I'm Going to Drag Garan to Brazil, he knows what he did, Zoe, Multicore, Aaron Bailey, The Green Scorpion, Game Champ says trans rights or human rights, Sander Kozak, Celestial Cookie, 8-Bit Mischievous, Boomboxy, John Miller, Curbs D50, Jorb, Damien R, Yop Alonzo, Wave It, World's Slowest Game of Chess, White Waiting for Black. While we play, would you like to have the world's slowest conversation? Star Captain Eli Shaba of Clan Ghost Bear, Chronosanthium, Dwaro25, Blue Moon Idaho, Britface, The Nonchalant Nacho, Kid, Very Gucci, Salty Sweet, Wispy Syrup, Riley Anderson, Arcombs, Natunian Baby. Slowest Game of Chess, Black. Let's try to crack open the board with C5. Officer Slard, What's That Noise? Greg Campbell, Nicky Wiki 34. Have you ever considered not being bad at video games, Miss Champ? Nova. Shinique says hashtag Landback, Sulfuric Boss, Fabi, Zith Uggles, and Dragon. Eric Barron, Zero. Mars Becker, XCY, Fyra, Shadowfire 638, Silktoid, Ivy Mackey. Drawn by AJ2, the return of the haha funny meme name. Amphison, Admiral Ampersand. Literal Cat Sylvie when Catgirl is gay and doesn't go to bed on time. Reblog if you too are gay and or don't go to bed on time. Eve Weaver Cable. I think it's time we blow this scene. Get everybody and their stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam. Flip Chicken, Sound of Rain, Ryan Garvey, Milk Succubus, Grand Nero. If you download the video, then it will be an offline internet TV show. Zebras. And to back a game of Champisan, you're not playing Metroid on NES. You're playing Metoroido for the Famiri Computa Disuku Shisutemu. Fireblade 974, literally Judas. Now I only want to triumph. Norahana. Beam Animates, the Jellybean Warlock, the Insane One, Nathan Riddle. Quetzalcoatlus was the biggest flying animal with a 33 to 36 foot wingspan. 11, Sorio 99, Jack Silverson, Dakota Riggs, Infamous Peace, Miles Edgelord, Trish Chandler, Airtide, Maki B, Trees, Lilysap, Colin Monsma, Darknet, Attempted Wholesomeness, Champ doesn't like to say Funsy Runsy, IDAC, pronounced Didac. Game Champ says EA Games is the greatest game developer ever, Carlo Calcetera, Brizgy, Dr. Fiend, Margaret Josephine, Madrox07, friendly reminder that it's not normal to sneeze, I have never sneezed, F Hamadon, Release Idola LP4, T Brunelli 200, Quiet Mischievous, Pugmaster, Leverage, Lemon Planter, Corporal High, Hi Princess Aranus, Scott D word at Game Champ, you said my name wrong, it's Nitsa Gamer, not Nitsua Gamer, Fluff System, Fadooch, Rekindled in the Dying Flames of Capitalism, Grotchus, Ethan, Frilly Lily, Durgel, Alex S Warrior, No Game of Champ-kun, this video does not suck, stop being self-deprecating, Bababaka, character limit, supporting Game Champ until Jack and Daxter 4 is released, Cutie Monica, my D&D character whose name only Game Champ can seem to pronounce, Nemea. No one. Oh no, I seem to have dropped my $5 bill, has anyone seen where it went? My cat requires it for my rent. Whether we wanted it or not, we've stepped into a war with the Cabal on Mars, so let's get to taking out their command one by one. That hippie gamer, BJ Mashed Potato, is making Game Champ read more and is very sorry. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Cody Merchant, Perry Taylor Finn, Dantastic, Evie Padaman, Biggest Dickus, and we're not sure how, but Game Champ 3000 used video game challenge runs to get meaningful gun control legislation passed. Let me know how much this video sucks and how to improve in the comments below. You're legally allowed to eat a donut for watching and get out of my house.
Now I need me some yum yums and some cream.